Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Going for Two Sports podcast. Today, we're going to be doing a top 10 video. It is a top 10 video pertaining to the top 10 NCAA football quarterbacks in 2021. So, Ian, let's go ahead and get started with you. What's your number 10 spot?
First to start off, at number 10, Kedon Slovis out of USC. Slovis had an excellent freshman season for the Trojans, even if he was not supposed to start the season as a starter. Slovis finished the season with a large 3,502 passing yards and 30 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. He even finished with the NCAA freshman record of 71.8% completion percentage, which ranked third in the NCAA behind Tyler Huntley from Utah and LSU's Joe Burrow. Along with being a very accurate and smart pocket passer, Slovis was steadily efficient, ranking 7th in that category. Slovis will no doubt have a great sophomore campaign with a great Trojan receiver core. At number 9 is another transfer with D'Eriq King, who transfers from Houston to Miami. King is one of the most electric passers in the FBS, as he is one of 6 quarterbacks since 2000 to contribute to over 50 touchdowns in a single season. He did this in 2018 while still missing 1.5 games due to an injury. He started the first 4 games of the 2019 season, having a pretty steady start with 663 passing yards and 6 touchdowns. Unfortunately, his season ended early because of yet another injury. King decided to redshirt, which meant that he could be eligible for another year of college football. King decided to enter the transfer portal and landed on a promising Miami team. Miami is on the merge of becoming another team to be reckoned with, and King could be the perfect solution to the quarterback issue for the Hurricanes. At number 8, I have Jamie Newman transfer from Wake Forest to Georgia. Georgia's former starting quarterback, Jake Fromm, finished his college career with 4 great seasons. Fromm was taken by the Bills in round 5 of the NFL draft. Newman, who is going to be a senior, transferred from Wake Forest. He really turned it on this past season for the Demon Deacons, passing for 2,868 yards and 26 touchdowns. He also added 574 yards and 6 touchdowns with his legs. Newman did throw a higher 11 interceptions, but with a stronger offensive line at Georgia and better weapons surrounding him, I expect Newman's stats and productivity to increase tremendously. At number 7 is Florida's Kyle Trask. Felipe Franks was the starter to start the year, but after the first 3 games, Trask was named the starter of the Gators, and that did not change for the rest of the year. Trask, even with his limited playing time, still was able to throw for 2,941 yards and 25 touchdowns. His completion percentage was actually rather high too, at 66.9%, which ranked 12th this past season, even ahead of Justin Herbert. His draft stock has been trending upwards since he became the starter of the Florida Gators, as he just has a nice stroke when he lets the ball leave his hands. Expect much bigger numbers from Trask in this upcoming season. At number 6, I have another big shocker with Tanner Morgan out of Minnesota. Morgan was part of the surprisingly good Minnesota team that finished the year 11-2, with its only losses coming to fellow Big Ten members Wisconsin and Iowa. Morgan was a very efficient pocket passer who was ranked 4th in passing efficiency, only behind Joe Burrow, Jalen Hurts, and Justin Fields. Morgan did throw for 3,253 yards, which was ranked 2nd in the Big Ten, only behind Fields. Even with the loss of Morgan's favorite receiver, Tyler Johnson, Morgan will still have the talented receiver and Rashad Bateman, who still had 1,219 receiving yards, which was 14th in the NCAA. The 2 receivers had over 1,000 receiving yards each, which means that Morgan averaged a lot of receiving yards per throw, and he ranked 3rd in yards per completion with a solid 15.49 yards. Number 5 is Jaden Daniels out of Arizona State. Daniels showed a lot of positive potential last year, throwing an incredible low of 2 total interceptions. He won the starting job as a true freshman for the speedy Pac-12 team in Arizona State. Daniels led the Sun Devils to an 8-5 winning record, but Daniels underperformed when it came to the conference games, where he went 4-5. Daniels provides the ability to run with his legs or launch the ball to his receivers. He ran for 355 yards, scoring 3 touchdowns with his legs. Daniels did not throw a ton of yards in his first collegiate season, only throwing 2,943, but in his smaller 205 completions, Daniel passed for 17 touchdowns, 8 of those to first-round draft pick Brandon Ayuk. Number 4 is the Texas quarterback Sam Ehlinger. Ehlinger is returning to Texas for his senior season, which could be good for him as it could have the potential to increase his draft stock. He was ranked among the top 10 most valuable college football players in each of the past 2 seasons. He threw 32 passing touchdowns, which ranked 11th in the NCAA, and he also threw for 3,663rd, which was also ranked 11th. Ehlinger has the potential to lead his team to make a big run in the Big 12 championship race with Oklahoma and potentially Baylor. He has only gotten better in his collegiate career and can hopefully keep that pattern going in his final season with the improving Longhorn team. My number 3 is actually kind of a surprise, as I have Sam Howell out of the University of North Carolina. Originally, Howell committed to Florida State, but when Mack Brown said that he was going to return to Chapel Hill, Howell decommitted from the Seminoles and chose to go with the Heels. Mack decided to start Howell, which made him the first true freshman quarterback to start a game for the Heels in history. He absolutely exploded onto the scene, second in the ACC in passing yards with 3,641, only behind Lawrence. UNC had a record of 2-9 in 2018, but this past season, Howell gave the team a winning record and bowl game appearance and win with the record of 7-6. He had a great touchdown to interception ratio with 38 touchdowns to 7 interceptions and a solid 61.4% completion percentage. If he can lead to the Carolina Tar Heels to the ACC championship game this year, I would bet that they could have a chance at being the tough Clemson Tigers. At number 2 is Justin Fields out of The Ohio State University. Fields is both efficient with his legs and arms, as he has the ability to extend plays with his legs and create big yardage opportunities, scrambling or throwing. He is not needed to show his anticipation skills in his first year with the Buckeyes, but needs to stay calm under the pressure, as in the college football playoff semifinal versus Clemson, Fields threw 2 interceptions. In fact, Fields threw an absurd low number of 3 interceptions in the whole year, while throwing a total of 31 touchdowns and running in 10 touchdowns as well. At my number 1, I have Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson. Lawrence has been in the talk of being the next superstar since his days playing for his high school, Cartersville in Georgia. His hype was worth it in his freshman season, as he defeated the always hard-to-beat Alabama team in the national championship game. He also threw for 3,280 yards and 30 touchdowns, while only throwing 4 interceptions. Lawrence entered his sophomore season throwing a high 5 interceptions in the first 3 games of the 2019 season. He then turned the season completely around, throwing more yards, 3,665, more touchdowns, 36, and at a higher completion percentage at 65.8%. His interception total was 2 times the amount in his sophomore season than his freshman year, but expect big things this year, maybe even a Heisman Trophy.
Nice top 10, Ian. I can't say I agree with everything, but personally I think it's pretty good overall. Okay, now for my top 10. At number 10, I have Jamie Newman. This quarterback transferred from a Wake Forest team that he made quite successful last year to an elite football program at Georgia this year. This transfer will set him up with all of the necessary weapons to be successful next year and improve upon his 2019 season totals. These totals were already very impressive, as he threw for 2,868 yards and 26 touchdowns last season with the Demon Deacons. He also has skill with running the ball as well. I think there is a ton of potential with Newman's move to Georgia, and it will be fun to watch him at that elite program next year. At spot number 9, I have quarterback Kyle Trask out of Florida. Trask is a big, strong quarterback at a strong football program at Florida, coached by one of the best QB developing coaches in Dan Mullen. Mullen has coached many elite QBs over the year to great results, and I think he will do it again with Trask this coming year. With the departure of elite SEC quarterbacks due to the draft, including Joe Burrow, Jake Fromm, and Tua, Kyle Trask is actually the best returning SEC quarterback for this season. He had pretty good stats last year, posting just under 3,000 yards, and I think he will further develop and improve into a strong starting QB this year. At the number 8 spot, I have Ian Book, the Notre Dame quarterback. He has a total record of 20-3 with Notre Dame, so he is a proven winner alongside his coach, Brian Kelly. He threw for over 3,000 yards last season, and he posted 34 touchdowns last year. The loss of the elusive receiver Chase Claypool may hinder his totals a bit, but I think he will be able to develop good chemistry with the new wide receivers pretty quickly this year. His size may not be the greatest for this era of football, but I think his ability to use his feet to pick up yards makes up for this. Personally, I think Book is one of the most underrated players in all of the FBS. Next at the 7th spot, I have Kedon Slovis, the USC quarterback. As a freshman last year, he performed excellently. He led his USC team to an 8-4 record while recording fantastic numbers, including 3,502 passing yards, 30 touchdowns, and just 9 interceptions. He set an NCAA freshman record of a 71.8 completion percentage this past year, which showcased his arm talent and accuracy. Overall, he is a very well-rounded quarterback who plays quite well in the USC system, which will help bolster his performance next year. Brock Purdy, the Iowa State Cyclone quarterback, is my number 6 selection, and he may not be in one of the most prestigious football programs, but he is sure talented. He was just 18 yards shy of throwing for 4,000 yards last year for the Cyclones, which is a tremendous achievement. His high passing yard total was one of 18 school records set by Purdy last year. Other records include most touchdowns, most total offensive yards, and most 300-yard passing games. He does, however, play for a weaker team in the Big 12, but I predict that he will overcome this to rise to become one of college's top QBs statistically. Personally, I'm not actually as high on Sam Ehlinger as most people are, but there is no denying that he is extremely talented and on a pretty good Texas roster. I believe the Longhorns really underachieved last year by going 7-5 in the regular season, so I think the entire team will perform much better this year. He posted great TD numbers last year as he threw 32 touchdowns, and he also has excellent mobility, which is so important in today's game. He also had over 3,500 passing yards last year. The best is yet to come for Sam Ehlinger. Jaden Daniels is such a talented quarterback as we saw from last year, which is exactly why I'm putting him at the 4th spot. He is great at leading game-winning drives, and again, his stats as a true freshman will only be built upon. Like Sam Howell, he has a very experienced coach in Herm Edwards, and I think he will use his tremendous downfield accuracy to rack up yards and touchdowns next year. He has the potential to be the best Pac-12 quarterback next year, and I think that his overall talent will put him even in the top 5 in the 2022 draft. At the 3rd spot, I have the UNC gunslinger Sam Howell. Howell had an incredible rookie season with 3,641 yards in his true freshman season. That is just incredible. He is an experienced veteran coach in Mack Brown at the helm, and I expect him to greatly improve on his numbers from last year and help bring UNC to the top of their division in the ACC Coastal. Also, as we saw from last year, Howell is great in close games, which will help their overall team play in UNC. Justin Fields is my number 2 quarterback for the 2020 to 2021 season. He had a tremendous first starting season for the Buckeyes, and he is a pretty easy runner-up for Trevor Lawrence to me. He is a tremendous career passer rating, a strong 188.4. Also, the strong Ohio State roster will help him rack up impressive totals once again. I expect him to be among the elite college quarterbacks next year, cementing his place in the first round of the 2021 NFL Draft. And to top off the list, I don't think it's going to surprise many people that I have Trevor Lawrence at number 1, for pretty obvious reasons, I think. Just in his 2-year college career, he has 2 national championship appearances, and he has thrown for over 3,200 yards in each of those seasons. He has only thrown 12 interceptions total in his 2-year career, which is pretty incredible considering the amount of passes he's thrown total. He is a very athletic QB as well, with a great build, and he was able to rush for 563 yards last season, proving his mobility. Overall, all I can see is success for him and the Clemson team next year. Okay, well that concludes my top 10, so let's go ahead and shift over to Ohm's top 10.
Wrapping up my quarterback list is Derek King, quarterback out of Miami. He recently transferred from Houston to Miami, which Miami is a great program. I think it would have been nice if he stayed at Houston because while Miami is a great team in the ACC, other than Clemson, there's not much, other teams that can provide pressure on the defensive side of the ball. However, Derek King, he is literally the definition of a dual-threat quarterback. In his 2018 season, he accounted for 3,656 yards with 50 touchdowns, which for a dual-threat quarterback is amazing. He scored 82 touchdowns in his career, which is also very nice. And a fun fact, which I learned, he has scored touchdowns as a passer, obviously, a runner, a receiver, and a kick returner, which is just amazing. He's incredibly athletic. He has a win-now mentality. And with Miami, he could bring this team to a new level. With that accuracy, he needs to improve it. His decision-making also will improve as he's growing. But Derek King, he is a dual threat, and he could get drafted in the later rounds. Now, as we come up to the 9th spot, I put Jaden Daniels. He'll come up right here at number 9. I mean, he does have some crazy throws. He has that vertical ball. He can throw it deep. However, he reminds me sort of a worse Lamar Jackson. Yes, he can run, but his passing isn't there when it comes to his short accuracy, and that is very important in the NFL. We're seeing now with the newer quarterbacks, short accuracy is something that they all lack, and you have to be able to get yards on those short and medium passes in the middle of the field. Yes, he can throw downfield, but we really need to see some accuracy increasing when it comes to his other play styles. He can run, though. He is one of the best run threats in this draft class. I think he will get drafted in the first 3 rounds, but he really has to show that he can keep improving that accuracy if he wants to impress his draft scouts. The 8th quarterback on my list is going to be Tanner Morgan out of Minnesota. I mean, while he may seem, he's not as interesting as the other quarterbacks on my list as well, how I'll put it. However, Mel Kiper actually sees him as a potential dark horse. I mean, he's heavily on the radar. He's a guy to watch, and Mel Kiper thinks he's a leader. I've seen Morgan throw some nice balls, and he is able to stretch the field, which is a very good skill to have once you reach the NFL and play against harder defenses. Now, he does have some holes in his play. He also is 6 feet tall, which is not the tallest for the quarterback position. However, his accuracy is amazing, and if you pair him with some good speedy receivers, he can show off that arm he has. The 7th quarterback on my list is KJ Costello, quarterback out of Mississippi State. After transferring from a superb Stanford season, I think he'll be pretty comfortable in Mississippi State. I mean, I actually like him as an NFL pick. He'll most likely get drafted in the 3rd or 4th round. And he reminds me of Phillip Rivers. I've seen some others compare him to the newest Colts quarterback. He has the size. He has the arm that not many quarterbacks show. He can throw the ball deep. He's proven that. And I really like that he transferred to Mississippi State, showing that he's not afraid to play better teams. Now, with the system change, Mississippi State plays a lot different from Stanford, so he's really going to have to get accommodated into this new system if he wants to, build on his stats from his first year with Stanford. With the sixth quarterback on my list, I'm going with Sam Howell. Now, I'm not as high on him as Jack and Ian are. However, he reminds me a lot of Baker Mayfield. He has that stocky build with a 6'1" frame. He has a lot of arm skill. He can drive the ball downfield. He can make plays. He can improvise, which is really good in this NFL. He does present a run threat, which isn't as noticeable as other quarterbacks, but he does present a run threat. So he is sort of risky in his play style, again, a lot like Baker Mayfield, but he is very young and he has the ability to improve. Now, it's hard to compare him to other Power 5 quarterbacks as they face tougher defenses. In the ACC, Sam Howell is the second best quarterback after Trevor Lawrence, but after Clemson, there's not really many other defenses that can prove pressure for this young quarterback. With the fifth QB on my list, I just have to go with Kellen Mond out of Texas A&M. Mond, as a Packers fan, he reminds me of Jordan Love. Puts up crazy amount of touchdowns. He threw 52 as the freshman, and he did post 24 interceptions. However, he just shows some true arm talent. He had 501 rushing yards with 8 rushing touchdowns last season. And he has the size, as he's 6'3" and 217 pounds. So he has potential in this league. It's just if he has to improve his decision making, but he's young and he has the ability to do that. The only problem is, as with Jordan Love, if he switches into a new system, it could be problematic. As for many young quarterbacks, changing into a new system just completely wipes their skill set and their decision making. They don't feel as comfortable. But if he stays with Texas A&M, he could keep improving, and he could eventually be a very good draft pick. The fourth best quarterback on my list is Sam Ehlinger. I just don't see him, succeeding. There's just some holes in his play. However, his accuracy just keeps improving. It's just crazy how much his accuracy improves. He has a size. He's 6'3", 230 pounds. And while we're putting him on lists with other younger freshman quarterbacks, he's given the stats, and he's not a rushing quarterback, as most of the quarterbacks are now switching to, which is interesting. However, he threw 68 passing touchdowns and 25 rushing touchdowns with the Longhorns. I just see him succeeding. In the draft, there'll be many questions about him, but for now in college, as his accuracy just keeps skyrocketing, he'll have some more success. The third best quarterback on my 2021 college quarterback list has to be Jamie Newman, the recent transfer to Georgia. Newman, his passing yards with his last season in Wake Forest, were not very good. 2,868 is very average for a college quarterback, but 32 total touchdowns shows that he can prove himself, and he had 574 rushing yards on top of that. Now he is on a Georgia team this year, so it's going to be a bit different for him. I don't know how he'll be accommodated into the system. However, Georgia has a lot of protection for him. They have weapons for him, and those weren't really provided in Wake Forest. So yes, the defenses he will be playing will be much harder now that he's on a Power 5 team. However, he'll have so much more protection, so much more offensive threats. I just see Jamie Newman as a dual threat quarterback succeeding in his next season. Now, with the number 2 quarterback on my 2021 college quarterback list, you got to go with Justin Fields, quarterback out of Ohio State. He is most likely going to get drafted in the top 5, if not top 10. Justin Fields is the only quarterback who can challenge Trevor Lawrence for the best quarterback. We'll just see. Got to wait for the college season. Justin Fields was a finalist last season for the Heisman Trophy. He passed for 41 touchdowns and only had 3 interceptions, which is an incredible ratio. He will be even better in his second year with his new coach, Ryan Day. Now, the added running that he has could also push him above Trevor Lawrence, as Trevor Lawrence isn't as much of a run threat as Justin Fields. You could compare Justin Fields to sort of a better Jalen Hurts, in my opinion. So, the best quarterback on my 2021 college quarterback list has to be Trevor Lawrence, quarterback out of Clemson. I mean, he's proven himself continuously, and he did amazing under pressure in his freshman and sophomore year. I mean, he's 6'6", 220 pounds. He's a star pocket passer, and he showed that his freshman year wasn't a fluke, as over the past 2 seasons, he's passed for 66 touchdowns and 12 interceptions, and that doesn't even include his 10 rushing touchdowns. Now, Trevor Lawrence most likely will go in the top 3. I don't see any problems for him this year for his college season. In the NFL, he's going to be very young, since he most likely will be drafted as a junior. So I could see some problems regarding his age and his experience. But other than that, Trevor Lawrence is a beast, and I can't wait to see him play.
Okay, so that about wraps up this video. So thank you very much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe for more content. And also, write down in the comment section below what you think of our top 10 lists for quarterbacks for the 2020 to 2021 season in the NCAA.